Beautiful. Okay, so we are recording. So if we haven't already met, my name is Melanie Olenberg, founder and co-creator at the Arts Collective, and we're a co-working membership for people who help others thrive. Welcome right now to the How We Heal series. So this series has been a response from members of the IAC, and the goal really has been to spark conversation and discussion from different perspectives of different wellness experts on how to understand and move through and shift some of the very difficult experiences that we're facing around the world right now, especially as a result of COVID. But at the same time, our hope is that these discussions will continue to be supportive after COVID-19 has passed, because we're working on themes that really move beyond time. So before we get started, I'd like to begin by just honoring and acknowledging where we're all coming from. I understand we have people participating from around the world. We've been writing in the chat box where we're all coming from. And it's really important to acknowledge the land that we reside on. The topic today is reclaiming the sacred. So the panelists and I, we had a conversation in preparation for our conversation with you today, and we all felt that it was really important to really feel the land that we're on to create the container for this conversation. So you could just take a moment wherever you are in the world, and whether you want to close your eyes and just feel and acknowledge the history of the land that you're on. Acknowledge the people who've lived there before you, and also your ancestors. Acknowledge the plants and the animals of your area. Just take a moment to really give gratitude and thanks. And also, we'd like you to take a moment to acknowledge that our discussion today and all the practices that come out of this in reclaiming the sacred, we're also creating a container for future generations as well. So I'd like you to just hold space for that truth and that knowing that the work that we're doing today and the discussions that we have in bringing the sacred back, remembering, reclaiming, that we're supporting future generations. So without further ado, we'd like to hear first from each of our panelists, just a couple of minutes each, to describe who they are, what the work is that they do, and also to introduce us to their particular stance or view on reclaiming the sacred. So I'm just going to stop sharing the screen so it will change your view. You can see each other. Beautiful. So Sumeet, would you like to get started with an introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad and grateful that you're all joining us. I'm a psychotherapist and amateur writer and comedian from Toronto. I help men deal with...
We've got some background here. Okay. I'm just going to mute folks who are not speaking. Sorry, Sumeet. You can continue, Sumeet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I help men deal with the issues of modern masculinity. I've struggled with my mental health for most of my life, and been on a healing journey for 10 years, which began with my spiritual awakening. And through this 10-year odyssey, I confronted and overcame a lot of my demons and darkness. This path of self-discovery has led me to reclaim my essence, purpose, and creativity by transforming me into a comedian. And comedy is a big part of my spirituality because it helps us to transcend our egos, to turn suffering into joy and to find the light in the darkness. And I was only able to do this by, because of spirituality. And that's why reclaiming the sacred is so huge for me, because for me, my stance on the sacred involves a lot of it through the lens of self and culture, because a big part of what we have to reclaim in ourselves now is a relationship to ourselves, which has been hijacked by our kind of modern rat race culture that doesn't leave much time and space to discover actually who we are. Where a lot of us are working, full-time jobs, and we have families, and we try to also make time for hobbies and things like that, and yet there's not much time to really kind of explore and to question who we are, right? To ask the big questions of like, who am I, and what's my purpose in life, and where are we going as a species? So yeah, I very much approach it from that angle. So Melanie began this. She opened this discussion by creating what's called a sacred container. So I just want to share a simple tip for how anyone can create a sacred container. You just have to put a little bit of sage in your Tupperware. So that's me, and thanks for being here.
Sumeet. So Sumeet is a comedian, and the sacred clown comes through his work, so everybody be forewarned. Who would like to go next? Jodie?
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. I'm honored to be here in this really important discussion in this really important time. So my background, I've been a massage therapist for 20 years. I started out just very classical massage, and about 5 years in, went through my own sort of healing process, spiritual, I guess, awakening, you might call it. And that's when I started to kind of go deep into everything, and became obsessed with like, how do we heal? Like, how do I heal? How do we heal? So that pretty much informs everything that I do. And also just the spiritual aspect. I became really involved in shamanism, which is, I would say, my spiritual practice and path currently, which also informs all of what I do. And I've explored a lot of different realms, a lot of different practices. I still practice as a body worker, doing one-on-one with people, integrating massage therapy, Reiki, craniosacral, somatic experiencing, which is a trauma-based therapy. And so that's my one-on-one work. I also do astrology, which integrates African and classical astrology, and also do some shamanic healing. And then I do group work as well, primarily the Healing Earth Lodge, which is a sweat lodge based ceremony. It's based on tradition, but it's its own entity. It's bringing people to the earth. The Mother Earth is a healer, and it helps us humans, Westerners, empty our minds, empty our bodies, so that we can feel the love and compassion that is there in the earth. I believe Earth is the greatest healer, and she is able to hold us so lovingly in such a loving container. It's sacred. This topic was piqued my interest absolutely, because I feel we're all in this process of reclaiming the sacred. I reclaimed the sacred in my work and in my life, and very honored to hold space for people, definitely, while they are in the realm of the sacred field. So that's what I bring to the table today and in the world. So very happy to be here.
Thank you, Jodie. Jennifer, would you like to go next?
Sure, thank you. I'm so grateful to be here. What a beautiful, beautiful topic. So my name is Jennifer, and ultimately what I do is I create safe space for women to rise in love with themselves and come home to who they truly are. And it's so beautiful listening to Sumeet and also Jodie, I love how what we do so often comes out of our wounds, and where we've come from, and what we've kind of had to endure and then rise above. And so for me, there's been such a theme around accepting myself exactly as I am, and this is what I hold space for. And it's so interesting that I start to see even deeper layers of that. And I believe that we can do so much healing on ourselves. And at one point, it begins to move into the collective. And we're no longer just looking at healing this physical vessel, but realizing how connected we are to all people, to all things, to the earth. And once we reconnect in that way, then the work we do, it becomes so much bigger than ourselves. So that's what I do. I run a lot of group work. So there's a retreat that's coming up at the Rasa Sanctuary in 2 weeks from now. There's a 4-month program that I run where we connect deeper to the cycles of the moon, and then one-on-one coaching to really deep dive into the blocks and the old core wounds that keep attracting the same patterns, and really looking at those and loving them and accepting them and allowing them to be exactly as they are. And in that safe space, magic happens. When people feel safe to be exactly who they are, then they're able to create massive shifts. So that's what I bring, is a desire to see everyone feel comfortable and safe exactly where they are, and continuously self-observing to see the little places where it still pops up, where there's still judgment, where there's still, a lack of acceptance. And I think that's the work. I think that's the work of being in this human body, is continued humility, and working together. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you for that. And Deborah?
Hi, everybody. Wow, so beautiful to hear all our panelists' beautiful, descriptions of themselves and their connection to their work and the reclaiming of the sacred. It's such an honor to be here. My name's Deborah Brodey. I've been a yoga teacher for about 20 years in the Vini Yoga tradition. But my name is Deborah. It means bee. I'm a cross-pollinator, and not in a flitty way, but I go deep with all the traditions that I've been weaving in my life since my 20s for the last 30 years of earth wisdom that I learned first working in the Native community, and then studying Don Oscar Mira Casada from Peru. And can you hear me? Because it says my internet's unstable. Anyway, I had a journey. I grew up in a very secular family. And so I would say my connection to spirit without knowing it was my connection to nature. And so, right away in my early 20s, connecting in the Native community, working in Toronto, and being exposed to the many seeds were planted when I worked in those communities in the area of literacy. And I honor my early teachers. I honor Maddie Harper Howe, who was my first mentor. And I honor the First Nations Technical Institute that planted many seeds for me as a young woman. But, I went traveling to India, and I studied yoga and Buddhism. So I have a kind of weaving of these three kind of shamanic paths in their own traditions. And, you know, for me, reclaiming the sacred has been, it's been this incredible journey of, it's really the journey of claiming myself, of coming home to myself, because we are sacred beings. And that has been my discovery, is that I am a sacred being, and that the sacred is all around us. It's in my breath. It's in the sound of the birds. It's in the trees. It's our connection to nature, to me, it's the key code. It is, we are nature, and we have forgotten. And reclaiming the sacred has to do with remembering who we are and remembering our connection, remembering the oneness that we are. We are not separate from nature, and yet what has happened in our society is that we forgot. We live in this separation. And so my life has been dedicated to coming into right relationship with myself and, you know, nature reconnection, connecting with nature. And I've created, over the years, my weaving has created my radical self-nourishment program. Radical self-nourishment, self with a capital S, radical down to the roots of the self, which is one with all of nature, which is one with all that is. And that's based on yogic philosophy and living 5 attitudes that help us come into our wholeness. And because that to me is dealing with our woundings of separation. And so yeah, my work has been reclaiming the sacred through radical self-nourishment. And also I'm writing a book about living reciprocity, 7 principles of how do we live it? How do we live reciprocity? How, you know, which is that beautiful flow of relationship, of giving and receiving. That is our natural state of being, but we forgot. And our connection to nature is the key, that is the key to coming home and to healing our planet. And COVID is giving us this opportunity to remember this, remember ourselves. We need to remember who we are. And so that's what I'll say for now. I got a lot of passion about this subject.
Love it. Great, Deborah. Thank you.
Thanks.
You know, to kind of work with some of the concepts that got brought up in what you were saying, and we had talked about this a little bit in our meeting prior. There's this interchangeability between religion, the sacred, and spirituality, and I'm just wondering if we could just take a moment to touch on what we mean by reclaiming the sacred. We have a question a little bit later about somebody that's shifting religion, so we'll have time to get into it a little bit more deeply as well later. But just as an introduction, so that we're all on the same page, to create that container for what we mean by these words. Jennifer, would you like to get started with that?
Sure. What I think of when I hear reclaiming the sacred, I think of honoring and respecting. I think of recognizing and acknowledging. And just as Deborah said, I love that word, remember. Remembering who we are, and that we're not separate from anything around us. And when we reclaim that sacredness within ourselves, and we are able to let go of the judgment and all of these programs that we all seem to have very similar programs in this society, when we're able to start to transmute those, and we really see how beautiful and perfect and wonderful we are, then that's how we show up, because we're not judging others in the same way. and we're taking care of the land that we live on, that gives us everything that we need. And so when we reclaim the sacredness within, it allows us to show up in that way. And there's more harmony, there's more balance, there's more humility and honor and respect, and more peace and joy and happiness. That's what it means to me. Thank you.
Thank you. And what about so what I'm hearing is like this emphasis on reclaiming the sacred being about remembering, and that we have all these symptoms of not remembering and not living in the sacred. Jodie and Sumeet, can you answer or respond to the question about what other symptoms do we have about not being connected or aligned with the sacred? Why is it so important to reclaim the sacred in the first place?
Oh, we can't hear Sumeet. Oh.
Sorry. Okay, there we go. I would say so. The biggest symptoms that I think are a lack of connection to yourself, to others, and to something transcendent. And also a disconnection from the bigger questions and mysteries of life, because like I mentioned in my intro, that a modern life is very fast paced and it doesn't leave much time for an inner life, right? Because that's what spirituality is about, right? Because religion is a system of beliefs and practices that helps you lead a moral and spiritual life. But sacred means something that is it's about a connection to gods, or something that has a religious purpose. So that means that we are reclaiming the sacred is about taking back the things that we've lost that help us feel a connection to God. And God doesn't have to be a person. It could be whatever. It could be nature. It could be love, energy, whatever sacred means to you. And I feel like that's a lot of what people are doing now. They're determining what sacred means to them. For sacred for me is like sitting by a river or listening to classical music, because that makes me feel connected to something higher than myself, right? And you don't have to call that like a god or a man in the sky or anything, right? So yeah, so a symptom is a superficial life, life based on, look at my social media photos of my vacation, look at my car, look at my house, look at my degrees. This is, if you look at our culture, this is a lot of what it emphasizes, right? This is what it deems as the markers of success, right? Because a big reason why reclamation is so important, because during the Middle Ages, we were too spiritual, right? That's called spiritual bypass, when we were too focused on the otherworldly, that we forgot to live right here down on earth. But then we polarized, after the scientific revolution, we became too materialistic and focused on worldly things, right? Seeing everything as matter and atoms, and forgetting that there is a spirit and a soul to things, right? Which is very much what indigenous cultures did. They saw that everything has a spirit to it. So that's why it's so important that now in our materialistic culture, to bring back balance, that's why it's very important to reclaim the sacred, because now that we've become too focused on the body and the immediate and and the earthly, we need to now reclaim the sacred to start to address, because our culture very much abundantly meets our physical needs, but what we've lost in transition into this abundant culture is a connection to our emotional and spiritual needs, right? So now is our task to just remember the things that helped us feel more connected to something outside of just the mundane and everyday, yeah. So those are just some of the symptoms, and why I believe it's so important right now to reclaim the sacred.
Thank you, Sumeet. Yeah, so I'm hearing a disconnection from the earth is a symptom, an overemphasis on the ego, or on having things and materialism, disconnection from ourself, like Deborah was saying earlier, disconnection from nature, or the fact that we are nature, we are sacred. Jodie, is there anything else that really comes to mind in terms of what the symptoms of this disconnection are, and Yeah. I
echo all those things. Absolutely. Just disconnect from nature, from the earth. But also what I notice in my work a lot is people living up here. So they're actually not sort of connected down here. And that's our earth connection as well. So there's so many people that come in with anxiety, other sort of, they're stuck in this realm here, spinning and spinning and spinning. And so there's a huge sense of ungroundedness, anxiety, and just kind of not knowing where you are in space as well. So I think that's a huge symptom. And, when we reclaim, retrieve is a word that comes to me. Remember, I love that, what you said, Deborah. The sacred, it's opening us up to that field. I like to call the sacred this field that we enter, and where all things are possible, and we can feel our hearts, and we can feel the earth, and we can feel our bodies, and encompass everything. We've been focused, really mentally and physically, bring in the emotions and the spirituality. That's 4 aspects of our being that all need to be integrated together in for a holistic human, basically. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
One of the questions that we have from one of our audience members who chooses to be anonymous today is, with the current world predicament, what do you recommend as the most valuable sacred practice to cultivate and maintain healing? Deborah, would you like to start? I see you smiling.
I think one of the most valuable practices, there's a few. I think you need to get out in nature, walk in nature and connect. Go and sit with your back against a tree and just connect. Let yourself feel what you feel. And you can actually give when you're feeling heavy and sad and full of grief, you can, a tree can be very helpful in offering solace to us. So, being able to just talk to a tree can be a beautiful practice. I would also say, any kind of practice that brings you in your body and connects body and breath is very important. Sound, sound healing is one of my modalities, and sounding is one of the most incredible. It's a super highway to your presence, to releasing stuff that and to expressing what you need to, and then to actually express your gratitude, and all kinds of chanting and mantra that actually elevates and your consciousness. And there are so I would say the voice is very important. Embodiment, mind, body, spirit connection, any kind of like Tai Chi, yoga, dance practice, conscious dance, anything gets you in your body. You need to get in your body, connect with the earth, connect with your breath, and let yourself feel. Let it move through you.
Thank you. Jennifer, would you like to add a practice that really works for you?
It's funny, those are, like what Deborah just shared, are exactly the things that I would say as the most important is meditation. It's the first thing that I thought of, is meditate. And I think that for a lot of people who don't have a regular meditation practice, it can seem very daunting and overwhelming. And it really can be so simple to just set a timer for 5 minutes and pay attention to the in-breath and the out-breath. To say, with every inhale, think inhale, inhale, inhale. With every exhale you take, exhale, exhale, exhale. And this is nice for the people who have very busy minds, because it gives the mind something to chew on, and being outside, sit on the earth. I mean, I live in the middle of the city, and I actually just moved 2 days ago, but where I was living, right across from a gas station, nothing around me, but there was a school just a street away, and there are these two beautiful grandmother trees that I would go to at night, and I would offer some cedar, and I would just sit and lean against them, and I'd give them hugs, and really, as much as you can, even if it's just a plant in your home, sit in front of the plant and, you know, put your hands around it. Anything that can connect you to nature, to something natural, I find really helps to ground me and bring me back home to myself. And then the other thing is a journaling activity. And this is also a good one to give the mind something to chew on, and then to take it outside, take it out in nature, is to journal of, I give myself permission to. And the longer you go, if you set a timer for 10 minutes, you start to go really deep, and it becomes much clearer where you might be holding judgment for yourself. And once we are aware, that's the first step, is to simply become aware. And then, okay, then we can do something with it. And then you take it out in nature and you offer it to the earth. Yeah, that's what I'll add. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jen. Sumeet, do you have anything to add in terms of a practice that you would recommend? One sec. Oh.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it might sound kind of crazy, but yeah, do nothing, right? Because if you think about this unique, unprecedented moment where it's like we live in this culture of constant burnout, and where all these crises are happening that are showing us all these mental health problems are being created because of this constant burnout culture where we make no time for what's really important in life. We're always having to work, and because of that, we're eating fast food, which is deteriorating our bodies. We don't have time to exercise or make time to connect with people in our lives. So what's nature done? It's pumped the brakes. It said stop everything, right? You're neglecting yourself all these years, so you have no choice now. You either have to take a good look at yourself or look at the road we're headed in this culture, right? So in a culture that's always busy wanting to do things, right, and being a human doing, we need to try being a human being and just be in the moment, right? Because everywhere you look, there's ads on buses, on people's clothes, and everyone's trying to sell us something, because it's trying to. And capitalism thrives on that you have a problem, therefore here's a solution I can provide you, right? It's like the lesson of the Wizard of Oz. At the end, they all thought they had problems, but when they get to the great Wizard of Oz, who they think has all the solutions to the problem, they see just a man behind the curtain. And they saw that what they needed all along was in themselves. So they went on this hero's journey, right? They didn't know something about themselves, so they had to go through all the struggle, meet the Wicked Witch of the West and all that. And they realized at the end, they didn't need any of that stuff that was being sold to them. What they needed was just within themselves, right? And so that's what we're being called to do as a species right now, is look within, right? Confront your fears, right? Because whatever scares you is what you want the most, because fear serves those purposes, right? If it's not a physical fear of something that's life-threatening, right, which you should listen to, then any other fear is pretty much calling you towards what it is that you want most in life. So I would say just do nothing, sit out, lie on the grass, look up at the clouds, and just let your mind wander, because I remember one of my clients said that the silence terrifies her because that's where the madness begins, right? All the thoughts that she has that she tries to avoid, all the voices. But the thing is, if you always try to, when we're always hearing these voices in our head, we never make time to be alone with ourselves, and we can never hear our inner voice, right? And so I'll just end on this note that, you know, what we're all facing the most is uncertainty, right? Some of us has lost our jobs and lost relationships due to the tension brought up because of this lockdown. So we're all seeking answers. We all want to know what's next. What kind of work should I do? What kind of relationships do I want to have? And there's no better guide for yourself than yourself, right? You have all the answers you need. You just have to look within yourself, right? You're the one who holds a possession, who's aware of all your memories, everything you've been through. And so reflection is something that's been used in spiritual and religious traditions, practices to help people gain understanding of themselves. And you can only do that if you make time and space to actually listen to yourself. So say, listen to your story, be alone, be quiet, don't get rid of all the distractions, be alone, and just listen. Talk to yourself, ask yourself a question. How am I doing? Am I happy? What do I need in my life to be happy? And just be open-minded. Don't be afraid of the answers and let them come, and just be gentle to yourself and just listen and care about yourself.
Beautiful, thank you. So everybody in the comment section, I've been taking notes while folks speak, just in case something resonated and you're trying to, you wanted to record it. Jodie, can we hear from you some practices that you would recommend?
Absolutely. I love everything all my fellow panelists said. What's coming to me is actually a very simple exercise that you can do. Remember that our bodies it's a sacred vessel that our soul is presiding in. And in times when, it's chaos, there's a lot of anxiety, uncertainty, as Sumeet said, you want to remember that you have a sacred container in your body. So what you can do is, I'll just show you, is one hand around your rib cage and the other on your shoulder. And you just sit there. You can be in nature. Just feel your body. Just know that it has edges. Feel your feet. Especially if you're feeling spun out a little bit by all the news. I stopped watching the news. It's too triggering. This is a simple exercise that you can go, oh, I have a body. Let me feel it. It's a good way to help ground during this time. And it's something simple. You can do it anyway. People are not going to look at you thinking you're weird. Just sit there with your body and just breathe. Just feel it. Also looking around in your space to see, wow, I love that plant or that picture. Kind of offset the uncertainty, the stress, the pain that you feel. So that's one thing that came to me. Come back to the body and the earth.
Beautiful practices and exercises, everybody. Thank you so much. This is a really nice segue into another one of our questions from our audience. This person is in the process of changing. They've left their old religion, and the religion has been something that's been in their family for a very long time, and like for generations. So, and it's always been their connection to the sacred. So they're asking, like in exploring new ways of connecting with the sacred, they feel like they're dishonoring their ancestors, and they're asking your advice on how can I honor my ancestors without following their religious path. Deborah, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Hi. That's such a powerful question. Thanks for asking it. I can speak from my own experience because I have a practice that I actually work with my ancestors, and I'm of mixed heritage, so I have a Jewish side, a Jewish, Irish, English, Dutch, and there are all different kind of religions in my background. You know, sometimes you're getting pulled and all, and you know, and if you've got a very strong, it sounds like you come from a very strong lineage of, you know, and the way that I think about ancestors, if you think about, you have ancestors, like you got millions and millions and millions of ancestors from your bloodlines, but you also have ancestors that are, you know, the trees, the earth is your ancestor, the trees are the ancestors, nature is our ancestor, the elements are ancestors, the directions are the ancestors. There is a bigger way to think about ancestors that can be really helpful. And one of the things that I do is I actually have I created an ancestor, like kind of sacred altar space. And it's a space where I connect with them and I talk to them, and you know, they're not, and I'm connecting with the really healthy ones. You know, I go for the, like, I call in my healthy, reconciled ancestors, because they just are here holding space for you and want you to live your own destiny. You have your own destiny, your own path. And those well ancestors are rooting for you, and they're just, you know, you just need to kind of go, hey, I have my own path. I really want your, like, support. And it's amazing how working with ancestors like this has just, like, for me, it just has opened so much stuff up for me personally. I don't know if that's helpful for you, but to maybe open, you know, to think about ancestors going way back, and what, you know, your ancestors way back may have been doing something very, you know, practices that were very, I don't know what kind of practices that you're interested in, but that would be, you know, but very connected to earth, honoring, you know, and so just to know that you've got ancestors, millions of them, that are allies for you. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I received a personal note from them that it helps them very much, and they're very grateful. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. Does anybody else feel really called to give some feedback or advice on this question, or can I move on to the next question?
I can say a bit about it.
Okay.
So with any loss, there's grief, right? So you're losing something that was once very important to you. And so this is going to involve a process of grief, right? Grief is about letting go. And part of what helps us let go, a big part of spirituality, is finding meaning, right? So if you can, for example, I read that what helps people move on with their traumas is if they're able to make a meaning out of it. So for example, you know, getting into a car accident is one of the biggest traumas anyone can go through, right? But it makes you confront the possibility of death. And so there's a lot of people whose lives completely change after car accidents. So that can make you help not regret the experience if it helped you, if it shook you up in some way and taught you some lesson. So I would say one way to honor them is to honor where it's taking you up to this point in your path. It clearly had some purpose to serve you. You've now realized that now it's outgrown its purpose. You're ready for something else. It's taking you as far as it can go. And now it's time to embrace something different, right? That's true not just for religion, but any teaching. For relationships, sometimes we outgrow relationships, friendships, because we needed this person to come into our life at the right moment to help us take us to a higher level, to reach a higher level of awareness, to mirror something about ourselves. But now a lot of why relationships end is because one person in the relationship is more willing to grow and to change while the other person doesn't want to, right? And so that's when you bow to the other person and be like, thank you for being in my life. This was a gift. And it's time to move forward. Just like you can even personify these teachings. You can bow to them and be like, thank you, my ancestors, you have brought me so far. And, you know, because if you look at spirituality, I mean, it's not something that's stagnant. It grows, it changes, right? We have to challenge our beliefs. Just like with Christianity, right? There were reformations, right? We had these practices and we saw maybe that there's a better way to do things. So we have to introduce reform. So yeah, I would say express gratitude for where it's taking you and reflect on what was the purpose of these teachings. How did they get me to this point, and what have they taught me? And just let go. You can have even a ritual. Maybe you can burn some paper with a candle and of what you're going to let go of and what you'd like to bring into your life.
Thank you so much, Sumeet. And to the other panelists, if there's anything that you'd like to add to this question, I would just invite you to write it down in the comment box. I'm just going to move on to the next question because I think it's important that we get to all of our audience questions. When I think of reclaiming the sacred, I think of the earth and it breaks my heart. To see it, to feel it, and so much pain. There's so much disconnection from the earth. It's overwhelming. So whenever I connect with what's most sacred to me, it causes me so much grief. I'm gonna cry. Oh, I feel you. And it is a barrier for me to deeply connect in this way. Do you have any suggestions for how I can connect with the earth in a way that is healthy and restoring for me, while also pulling away enough not to feel so much pain? Jennifer, oh, Deborah, would you like to get started? Oh, okay, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm excited to hear Deborah's answer. I feel you. I really feel you, and I hear you. And what has been present for me, the message that I've received for a long time now from the earth, is the message of, I'll be just fine. You're the ones that need to wake up. And I think that the pain that we feel is really a reflection of our own pain and our own disconnection to ourselves. And so the first thing that I offer is that the world, the planet, Mother Earth, Gaia, Pachamama, has been through ice age after ice age after ice age. And she'll be just fine. And the way that we can start to live or continue, for a lot of people, to live in a better way is to look at our own connection to the earth. Practices, offerings. Offer cedar, offer some tobacco, offer, if you know, when my plants have clippings or dried flowers, I always keep them, and I either offer them to a land, I go down to the waters and pray to the waters. And your individual act creates ripples that, please know how much power you have, and that you are creating huge shifts just in the way that you are showing up as a single individual that is so intricately connected to the whole. Because when you reconnect in that way, when you offer in that way, when you are listening to the earth in that way, that's how you show up in the world. The conversations that you have are going to be different. You're going to start to attract different people into your life who feel the same way, who walk in this same way. And there's more of a sense of community, and that we're really making something happen together. Yeah, I think I'll say that much is don't underestimate the power that you hold. And feeling the pain and allowing it to be there, recognizing that it's reflecting the places in you that are feeling that pain, and that's okay. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
So beautiful, Jennifer. you know, we have similar, come from similar kind of perspectives. For me, thank you for the question. Yes, the word that comes is ceremony. And it's not like some ceremony, not in a like prescribed way. It is like comes from within you. It comes from your heart, from your being, from your gratitude. When you can be with the water, with the lake, with the tree, with nature, and as Jennifer says, make some offering. You can also sing. Your voice, your sound is an incredible, beautiful gift that the earth loves. Earth actually needs your sound, needs your songs, needs your love. You can sing. You can sing your grief. You can sing your gratitude. You can sing your pain, your joy. The earth loves it. The trees love it. It's nourishment. As I nourish nature, nature nourishes me. It's reciprocity. I give, you know, it's this beautiful giving and receiving, this flow that happens when, and as Jennifer said, when we make that song, it ripples out. It influences the whole collective. And I know from my own experience, because this is how I really healed a lot of despair in my life, was around ceremony, making offerings, and just like, you know, going, you know, one of my mentors, Malidoma Somé, gave me a ritual for nourishment for myself, which was to do organic milk offerings to the water. For, he said, you know, for your nourishment. And he actually, you know, like you're going to nourish the water. And, you know, he just said, take the milk and give it to the lake and just say, hey, water spirits, I honor you. I thank you. I'm here to nourish you. I love you. Thank you. Please take this milk. And if you want to send some nourishment my way, I'll receive it with gratitude. Thank you. And you give the milk and you sing. I can't tell you, when I started doing milk offerings, oh my goodness, the nourishment that came back at me, I couldn't believe it. Like, it made me cry doing that kind of, you know, nourishing the water. I just sit there in tears of gratitude, like tears of everything that would come out, even grief, you know, but it's like, oh, the waters receive it. I can't tell you how much the earth and nature receives your love, your offerings, and then you receive like tenfold. And so you are so powerful. And it's okay, as Jennifer said, you need to let yourself feel it all. And it's not all yours. Let it move through you. Don't block it in you. Don't not repress it. Let it just flow, and it'll move, it'll empty out, and then you can fill up with the gratitude, with the love, with the offering, and receive the nourishment. It's so beautiful. Ceremony, but in your own way. Ceremony that comes from your heart. No prescribed anything. Just follow your heart. Listen to the heart and follow it. That's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Jodie and Sumeet. Jodie, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I love what both Jennifer and Deborah said. It's so resonant with me. I think that acknowledging, like, the grief itself is such a gift. Grief is a way to honor the Mother Earth. You know, you think about the earth, without water, the earth becomes dry and brittle, just like us, right? So our tears are nourishment, as Deborah said, for ourselves, for the earth. And, you know, as a way to maybe shift that pain is to grieve, but also do good things for her. Make offerings, pray to her, pray for her healing, pray for your healing. there's so much that you can receive by just letting your tears fall to the earth, letting yourself fall to the earth, and see what comes back for you. There's so much love and compassion from the earth. You know, she's just fine. I agree, she's just fine. But our tears are so essential right now. And like Deborah said, they're not all yours. It's collective. There's a collective grief right now that is so important to be felt, so important to be expressed. And the earth is right there holding us all. So go to her and let your tears fall, make offerings, and let her receive you. And that's the way you can receive her, is through your own pain. That's sacred. Grieving is sacred. Absolutely. There needs to be a lot more of it. So thank you. Thanks so much. That's a wonderful question.
Thank you so much. You know, it reminds me too, Sumeet, earlier when you were talking about responding to grief and the importance of grief, moving through, excuse me, moving through grief. And it's just such an important process to feel the feels, you know. I'm just looking at the time, and we have one more question, and it was specific to balancing the divine masculine and the divine feminine in a relationship, in creating sacred union and reclaiming that sacred space between people, whether they're same sex, opposite sex. We love who we love, but how do we restore the sacred divine masculine and the sacred divine feminine in our society today, and in our relationships and in our communities? And what I would propose is in our supporting documents that we create and send out to all of our participants, how about we include these resources and practices in written form for folks, as I think it is a big question, and it might actually even warrant another panel. I'm just have a new person that just joined. So does that sound like a fair next step, so we can honor this question in its entirety and give some resources for honoring the divine masculine and the divine feminine in our communities and what we can do, and send that out in our supporting document? Are you guys comfortable with contributing to that after this is finished? Okay, thanks. So on behalf of the In Arts Collective, I won't speak for the panelists, but I just want to thank everybody for your questions and for really showing up to this really important topic. You know, I know we have people from all over the world, but here in Canada, it's Canada Day. And I always have a bit of a tricky time with Canada Day because of our history here with Indigenous peoples. And I personally received a lot of really great practices that will help me moving forward in honoring our ancestors, honoring this land, and trying to make some peace between within myself and how to honor what I need to honor to keep the sacred alive and strong within me. I also wanted to let you guys know, it came across in another conversation. It's funny how things happen that way. It was, I'm trying to remember the website. I think it was pachamama.org. Are you familiar with that, Deborah? No? You are. It's like
a little bit. I'm not, I haven't, I know friends that are part of that and have, you know, have done trainings through them and stuff. And yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a really thorough website. So I'll make sure that I include that link as well. And I'll also be including the links to, you can check out our YouTube channel. I'll make sure that you all get that as well. So we've touched on a lot of topics in previous panel discussions that you might find really relevant to this conversation. We touched on fear, anxiety and depression. There's so many topics, and they're going to continue because we've had a really great response from folks, and folks have really, they're applying these teachings in their relationships, in their families, with their teams at work, and just within their own lives. So I just really want to acknowledge that it's been a deep honor to have share this hour with you all. And yeah, I wish you all the best as you move forward. I'll make sure that you all receive the contact information of Jennifer, Jodie, Sumeet, and Deborah, if you would like to continue on with any of their offerings. And you're welcome, Hutch and Michelle. I see some comments in our comment box. People saying gratitude. Thank you, guys. Wow. Somebody got knocked off, so they rejoined, but don't worry, you'll get the YouTube video. Don't worry. And please feel free to share the YouTube video with others in your network if you feel that this topic would be helpful and relevant for them. And continue these conversations with your communities. Like, it doesn't have to stop here. In fact, it shouldn't. I hope it ripples out and it just keeps on going. Yeah, so I'll give our panelists an opportunity to say goodbye. And yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. It was an honor and a joy to be on a panel with all of you and to have everyone join us who did. It's so good to be here. Thank you. Thank you for this conversation.
Yeah, thanks everyone for participating. It was an honor, and really appreciate everyone's openness to have these conversations. And yeah, makes time and space for yourself, be gentle with yourself, and daydream, daydream the new world into being.
Thanks everybody for participating. It was really an honor to share sacred space.
Thank you. So beautiful. Love this juicy conversation. And yeah, like amazing, just the presence, great questions. And I just love being with all of you and love our panelists. That was just a really wonderful conversation. And thanks, Melanie, for your just incredible moderator skills. Like, you're fabulous. So I really appreciate it. Did you want us to close the pot?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Jodie and Deborah, would you mind closing the sacred container that we created? Thank you for asking.
Sure. I'd like to offer words of gratitude, incredible gratitude, acknowledgement to all of the ancestors of the lands we sit upon, all those that came up before us. They were part of our space. They understand what we're talking about. They're encouraging us to talk about it. So we want to honor them, all the guides, the teachers that have been part of all these different traditions around reclaiming the sacred in our lives. And we release them. They supported us, so they release them so they may continue to do their work. And we may continue to do our sacred reclamation in our lives. So much gratitude for all those present.
And we release this energy, and I'm going to ask all of you here to be participating in making a sound to actually release the container if you want, or you can listen. But I'm going to invite you to make 3 ahs from your heart. And imagine you could you could release the container out into the universe so that all beings everywhere may benefit from this conversation. Okay? We're going to exhale out. Take a breath in. This container is released.
Everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Very welcome.
You're
Thank you.
so welcome. Thank you for being here.